Brilliant. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to my talk about new skills for legal teams. Originally, this was a panel discussion with a lot more going on, but we've focused it down into 10 minutes. Now, as parts of this are going to involve children's literature and a Twitter-based art challenge, I feel like I should give a quick introduction to myself so I can prove I know what I'm talking about. I qualified as a capital markets lawyer with White and Case before moving to BPP Law School, where I ended up becoming responsible for working with 60 firms on innovation training and new skills. And prior to leaving there, developed a legal tech innovation and design module and was designing the framework for the new changes to legal education that Chris talked about in the first talk. So I've joined Reed Smith in October, and a part of my focus is on the skill set of a future lawyer. And I'm a member of the Education Task Force for Law Tech UK, which was previously the Law Tech Delivery Panel, and the O-Shaped Lawyer Group, which is an initiative started by GCs to instill in future lawyers the skills they'd expect to see from people in legal practice. So a lot of my working life has involved skills of the future lawyer from university right through to practice. So what are these skills and what are the models that exist? Well, there are lots of great models about that you can see on screen. There's the I-shaped lawyer, has a strong specialism in the area of law. Then there was the T-shaped lawyer with a strong core of law and with complementary skills. And we've talked about the O-shaped lawyer, which is very broadly lawyers who are open, opportunists, original, they take ownership and they're optimistic. And then finally, there's the Delta model, which covers three broad areas: the law, personal effectiveness, and business and operations. And that really includes technology and innovation and all the stuff that I'm responsible for at Reed Smith. So those are the models in which we're putting all these skills, and depending on which one you find useful, you can use all of them as you want. I only have 10 minutes, but there's a real drive to include a lot of new skills for lawyers. And those skills have come from surveys with general counsel, work with law firms, legal education providers, lawyers themselves. But here's a quick roll call of all the skills that someone somewhere at some point has talked about as being essential for future lawyers. Now, these are not necessarily the skills that I think every lawyer needs. I'm specifically looking at coding there. But even if it was, it's here that we really make the first mistake when we talk about the lawyer of the future. And that is saying the lawyer of the future. It's a lot to put on the back of one person. So instead of talking about the lawyer of the future, we need to talk about the legal team of the future. And then it starts to make much more sense. People can pursue the areas that inspire them, can work with others across the business, library teams in KM, innovation and IT, and even the clients themselves to deliver the best level of service. And lawyers still need that core of legal expertise. And firms and businesses are getting better at identifying new roles for people in legal with these skills already in place. And also, and I will whisper this, but lawyers are not always the best at all of these skills. And there are people who have spent their lives developing these skill sets and who could work with the lawyers to develop solutions. So with all that in mind, what does that have to do with children's literature and your art challenge? I'm obviously not going to be able to talk about all of those skills in 10 minutes, so I'm going to pick my favorite. To examine this, we're in lockdown, and that means keeping children entertained, and part of that is reading to them, including this gem from the creator of the Gruffalo Monkey Puzzle. It's the emotional tale of a monkey who's lost his mum and the butterfly who offers to help to find her. What follows is what only can be described as a comedy of errors, as the monkey describes his mother and the butterfly suggests random animals that are not his mum. For example, when the monkey says she's bigger than him, the butterfly suggests an elephant. All of this comes to a head when the monkey complains that none of the suggested animals look like him, at which point the butterfly explains that none of her babies look like her, so how should she know she was looking for a monkey? And this is a real life problem in the world of law. If the monkey is the lawyer, then the butterfly could be the client, another team in the firm, or even another lawyer. Both of them are trying to solve the same problem, but they're speaking completely different languages. And that also leads into your art challenge. Well, first of all, thank you everyone who contributed. This is not every response, but they were all fantastic. They're amazing. Look up the hashtag BIALL Art. And it's definitely one of my favorite skills, creativity. It's not the one I'm talking about, but I love the range of things that we've seen. And so these are some of the pieces from the art show. Now, some of you who received the challenge might be wondering how the range of pictures here fits into the challenge you were given. And that's for one very simple reason. There wasn't one art challenge, there were three. Some of you were asked to produce something green, some of you something with a long tongue, and some of you something that belonged in the water. Now, putting all three of those together, it's obvious what picture I actually wanted, and somebody did actually draw it. So Alyssa Duke, expect a non-existent prize coming your way, and this is a truly impressive entry. And I saw from your Twitter that you're an artist as well, so that's amazing. But the point I'm making with this art challenge and with the children's literature is how important it is to understand the problem you're trying to solve. Now, I was a bit mean. I didn't deliver all the instructions, but that's how it can happen in real life. Some of you working together in organizations may have pieced together that the challenge was different for each of you and worked together. But on the whole, if we don't know the problem we're trying to solve, then we won't produce the right solution, no matter how good we are in tech or whatever the other skills that we may have. So in law, that may mean we're so excited to develop a new solution that we don't take the time to understand what the client wanted, or we simply weren't talking the same language. And that's why my number one skill for the future is empathy, being able to understand others. It's a core tenet of design thinking. Before any solution is developed, you spend an equal amount of time understanding the actual problem and seeing if the problem as communicated is actually the problem that exists. And if we're going to have a greater range of legal roles and more diverse groups and ABSs and new roles in legal departments in businesses, then we all need to be able to speak the same language or to be able to ask the right questions of each other. And empathy comes through in so many of those different skills, like communication, collaboration, and even innovation. There's no point knowing about technology or managing a project unless you actually know the problem you're trying to solve and you're on the right project, because the end result will be wrong. So how do you teach that? Well, when law schools and firms are starting to adopt new practices, they are doing that. And the SQE, and Chris talked about this in particular, gives a real opportunity for shaking up courses and the way in which things are done. But just to talk a little bit about empathy and those skill sets, lots of universities and law schools have been developing add-ons, not just in the UK, but worldwide, and the US universities arguably ahead in terms of legal technology in particular. But those add-ons might be legal tech, business of law, or other such areas. And while it's good to diversify that skill set, the problem with add-ons is they're a bit like doing training in a computer room, and then you go back to your real life and you can't apply anything you've learned because you haven't used the skills in context. Now, as a result, I would expect to see more embedded skills across the entirety of new courses, which means new activities and assessment types that encourage these skills in a more real world in the way they're structured, especially for those courses targeted wholly at those who are going into practice. We do have this weird situation at the moment where legal education is entirely divorced from work, and I would expect to see more apprenticeships too under the new SQE. Or perhaps placement years or projects that are specifically for clients or for the law firms that help to cement these skills in advance, because you're having to think about what the problem is you're presented with. Now, one of the key things I mentioned was working with others, and some law schools and universities have started to develop cross-disciplinary courses where law students work with tech or business students on particular projects and they have to collaborate. And I think that's great. And one more thing that we'll see is that people will realize that the list of skills is too large for one person. And instead, we'll see law schools and legal training at firms offering more specialization in areas. So if that's legal technology and innovation, or if it's business where they excel, then, and that wasn't a pun with the Excel thing in there, but you could excel or focus on one of those areas, or it could be deep specialization in legal knowledge, because we still need those specialists. Overall, I think we're going to see skills become much more important in the future. And I think we'll see training and education start to meld and the skills being mapped across that. And as we move towards lifelong learning and people training for the whole of their career, I'd expect to see more people kind of keeping portfolios of where their skill sets are at. And the pace of change isn't going to slow down either. And law firms and legal departments are going to continue to diversify roles and value new skill sets that can pinpoint the problems to be solved and therefore the solution to be created. Now, obviously that's 10 minutes to focus on a whole range of skills and the responses to them, but please do feel free to contact me if you have any questions about anything I've discussed. I personally think this is a really exciting time to work in law, despite everything that's going on and despite all the data we've just seen, and especially for those who are not the traditional fee earners, as the skill sets you possess become more highly valued. I hope you found that useful, and I hope the art challenge didn't take you too long where you did it. And the children's literature will help you remember the points that I've made and that you enjoy the rest of the talks. But that's it from